Oh, Lord. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Land of Reckless Logic. Please make sure you guys pop that like button, hit the subscribe button, and please smack the notification bell so do not miss any more posts from me. Now let's get straight into this video because I have a lot to say. Alrighty, y'all. So what is going on right now, y'all? Today has been a long day for me, but however, I do want to talk about two particular topics. Now, as you guys can already tell from this video, there's gonna be a commentary video. You already know what I'm gonna be talking about. Check out the title. But the first thing I do want to talk about, we'll be talking about Saucy Santana. But however, I do have a special guest with me. He's no stranger on this program. Girl, forgive me. Had a long day. He's not a stranger on this YouTube channel in particular. So with that being said, I'm gonna have him introduce himself. And by the way, he is a power bottom.
What's going on, Super Soaker? I'm so glad that you were able to recover that throat out of urgent care. You know, I know that the people thought you was in training last week. They had no idea that it was an Adam's apple that was in training all last week. But hi, conscious crew and the reckless logics of the world. Happy to be here. And I kind of am a stranger on this platform. I can probably count on how many times, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've been on this platform because I'm hardly ever invited.
Well, for one, it's not that you're not hardly invited. It's just that I'm always on yours.
Same difference.
Yeah. Tomato. All right, so let me do this because, girl, just in case I forget. Ooh, do I look blurry? Do I look clear? I'm every woman. It's the background.
I just made it blurry.
It's the background. All right. So with that being said, what we're going to be talking about in particular is the Saucy Santana controversy that he has going on, girl. Just to give you guys a little synopsis on what's going on. So basically, what's going on with Saucy Santana? He was at a Pride event, but however, he was at the Pride event and he had a few of a choice. He chose a bit of a unique type of words, sentences they ended up putting together, and he ended up receiving backlash from women in general. But since we're having a black context, black women in particular, basically he said that, you know, when you guys need your hair done, you call the gays. When you guys need your makeup done, you call the gays. When you guys need us to whoop your baby daddy ass, you call the gays. But that was cool, but then people didn't like, in particular, black women, since we have a black context, they didn't like the whole fact of him saying that gays are the blueprint to this shit. So with that being said, he ended up receiving backlash. Claudia Jordan in particular was one of the very few, well, one of many, my fault, that ended up responding to him, and she had choice words to say, and basically she didn't take too kind of what to what Santana actually said. And basically, with all of that being said, in the midst of them having that conversation on the show, basically she ended up basically saying that I'm not gonna have no man tell me how to be feminine because I am feminine and gays are not the blueprint. I'm paraphrasing, y'all. Gays are not the blueprint. And with that being said, is that it's a slap in the face because black women in particular have always been an ally to queer people, and just for queer people to say that, or for him to say that, was very hurtful. Now, in the midst of that, Funky Dineva, and keep in mind this happened on Fox Soul, it's TGIF, it's the show they have on there, just context. Funky Dineva ended up giving a response. Now, the response is that where the conversation got unique. The conversation, what Funky Dineva was talking about is that yes, black women and in particular queer people have always had an ally, but however, there has been some things that I would say I don't want to say underlying pressure, but there have been some issues that I think that needed to be addressed. And so that's kind of where we are when it comes to the Saucy Santana situation. So do you have any thoughts, Conscious? I want to get myself together over here because Gert.
Well,
ooh, Lord.
I cover this on my platform, and I definitely understand the choice of words being triggering in a way. If we're going to talk about what he literally said, then women were proper in correcting Saucy Santana. The gays are not the blueprint for femininity. And I'm not even sure if that's actually what he even meant by the comments, because he went into glam and makeup and everything. And I don't know if he's talking about pretty much the gays of this era are just really dominating these industries, these beauty industries, these fashion industries, etc. That the gays got it on lit. And, you know, he was performing at a gay pride. He was hyping up his audience, his demographic, making us feel good as people who never get any damn credit for anything, even though we do contribute to the fashion trends, we do contribute to the creativity of the world, of the Black church, etc. These spaces would be nothing without two-spirited people's contribution to all of these institutions and areas of life. I like what Claudia Jordan said. I think it was fair. I think, you know, for her to say, obviously, you know, I'm not taking my cues of femininity from a man. I learned my femininity from my mom, my aunties, etc. Gay men didn't bring in femininity. What they did bring in is flamboyancy. So maybe when women are being extra and doing the most and kind of putting a little extra spice on their femininity, then yes, they are taking their cues and their lingo and their spiciness from gay men. But ultimately, you know, you have two minority people here. You have Black women and you have gay Black men. Both people who have been really underrated and undermined by patriarchy. Both minority groups are fighting for space. And so the way we speak, especially as it relates to each other, we probably do have to be careful because we all have been traumatized by patriarchy. Just like patriarchy don't want to give women any goddamn credit for anything, that same patriarchy damn sure ain't giving LGBT, Black LGBT folks any credit for what they've contributed to civil rights, contributed, you know, to all these major areas of life. So I understand the tension and why it's so triggering on both sides, why both sides are so triggered up, because neither side has real space under this patriarchal construct. So it was just unfortunate to see, you know, because women have been long-time allies to the community and gay men have had good duties, you know, for decades on end. And so it was not sitting well to see, you know, two parties who have had each other's backs to the best of their abilities under these circumstances to be at odds, because it calls for a lot of other women to sound off. It also calls for gay men to go into defensive posture, which is why I thought that Funky Dineva kind of saying something that led to, like, that was really healthy to say, which was, hey, it's been good. There's been allyship and relationship, but there's also been tension in this relationship between gay men, gay Black men, and straight Black women. And it's probably about time that we have the conversation. And he is right about that. While there has been allyship, it has not been perfect allyship. There are some differences that gay Black men and cis hetero Black women need to hammer out. You know, it doesn't mean that it's awful. There's just things that need to be improved upon and things that just need to be brought up to the surface so we can talk about it, put it into perspective, and deepen our love and our support of each other, because gay Black men love Black women and Black women love gay Black men and trans women and so on and so on. So it was interesting. Yes.
Okay. I'm about to ask you a question.
Okay.
Alrighty. So, do you believe that women are the blueprint?
To what? To be exact.
Femininity.
That's a sticky question.
That's why I asked it.
That's a sticky situation. What I will say is that in terms of Western gay men, we have taken our cues on femininity clearly from women's community. This is why we got the press on nails, we got the high ponytails, we wearing the lace closures, we are wearing the makeup, we know, where to go and what stores and what clothing to access in order to present in a feminine way. So we've taken our cues from our mothers, our aunties, from a women's world. We were fans of Beyonce and all the divas. And so, yes, in terms of the West, gay men have largely used the femininity from Western women as a palette to build upon, to expand and expound upon. But do women as a sex, as a collective in and of themselves, did they create femininity? No.
Okay.
Did men create masculinity? No. Both of these are divine attributes from our creator. And each soul is endowed with masculinities and femininity. I know that when we spoke about this subject on my platform, I spoke about how young boys can exude very strong feminine characteristics, from early formative years, like 2, 3, 4 years old, can be so naturally feminine that all the adults around them can assume that he's going to be gay when he grows up. Same thing for girls. You have a lot of young girls who are masculine. We call them tomboys, and they are running around and getting muddy and dirty and gritty and climbing the trees and everything. And so, no, neither sex necessarily owns or have created masculinity or femininity. It's just that for biological reasons and largely estrogen, women are just more oriented naturally toward what we call femininity. And maybe that isn't even mannerisms when we even think about it, because I've studied and observed lots of other cultures where there are different social constructs in place. And I've seen, for the most part, even neutral social societies that have neutral roles for both sexes, and men and women practically act the same. Men aren't overly masculine and women aren't hyper feminine. They kind of really act similar in terms of mannerisms and conduct, etc. And so I don't think that the mannerisms that we think of that come to mind when we think about masculinity and femininity are necessarily inherent. I do think a lot of that is
programming,
social engineering, yes, the social programming, etc. Just personality, but it's not necessarily organic, but it's interesting. And
okay. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of like in a sticky situation with that particular question. Only because of simple fact of, like I told you, like I used to always tell you guys before, at least if not everybody else, me and you conscious, is that I was watching a particular YouTube channel person. Her name is Erica De Niro TV. And that's how I kind of learned a little bit. Besides you, that's how I kind of dig deep and learn more about misogyny, women's community, and then also hearing from my own, the people that I really know in my real life, real time, in life or whatever. One of the things that she does mention all the time is that when it comes down to women, do I believe that women are the blueprint? I'm gonna say in particular, the Black woman is the blueprint when it comes down to it. But however, do they own that? But here's the thing: do women own femininity? No. Do I believe men own femininity? No. Do I believe anybody owns masculinity? No. But here's the thing, though. One of the interesting things that Erica did point out is that even when you begin to talk to women and they start to, I guess, describe what femininity is, and then when you start to dig just a little bit deeper and start to scratch at the surface, if you actually start to think those things through, the femininity is, at least their version of femininity, is designed by a man. It's like a lot of times when you start to look at femininity, it's stuff that men like, and what makes it's like you're being feminine and acting or behaving in a certain way to attract a mate subconsciously. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's why yesterday when we had the panel and stuff, I was kind of like on the fence when it came down to the blueprint. So yes, in all actuality, when it comes down to femininity in the West, because keep in mind in Africa, men and women was all types of androgynous and all these different types of things. But since we're more of a binary system, when it comes down to the Western Hemisphere, women in particular Black women are the blueprint when it comes down to femininity. But however, and I always add this, however, in despite of that, a lot of times too in the West, since we are living a patriarchal world and men are like narcissists when it comes down to it, your femininity 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit more grace. 8 times out of 10 is designed by men. What do men like? Oh, I'm submissive. Oh my God. Oh, I love a submissive woman. Oh, I cook and I clean. Oh my God. So, a lot of times, like I kind of be like, back and forth when it comes down to that particular question in particular. Honestly. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so you believe that in the West, men created the version of femininity that women personify?
Yes. In a sense, yes.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because even when she was explaining it, I was like, what? And then when she started to kind of explain it, I was like, you know what? It kind of makes sense.
Who, Erica Mena?
Who? No, Erica De Niro TV. Erica De Niro TV.
Okay. The content creator.
It's a particular video. It's a video in particular. It's called "Your Femininity." It's like your femininity is coded. No, it says men has coded your femininity, because a lot of times too in the message of that video was basically saying and talking about how a lot of times too women in particular are kind of groomed to kind of find out what men like and fulfill those needs, which is why now you must cook and clean because that's quote unquote what men like. And people, I guess throughout the ages, it's kind of like that's what the feminine role was supposed to be. You get what I'm saying? I'm kind of losing you. I feel like I'm explaining, but not explaining it to the full.
Well, I understand the gender role parts. I mean, like the gender roles are heavily organized, especially in the West, by patriarchy, who has obviously women on the bottom and as the domestic mates, as the helpmates, etc., and then do all of the leadership and manual labor in business, etc. But in terms of femininity, those estrogen levels that lead women generally to having lighter voices, all of the things going on biologically that contribute to women having much more of a empathic nature. Nurturers, maybe that's something that's more organic for women since they actually have to bear life
the child
and they actually have to cultivate life physically, etc. So they're just more naturally oriented toward being soft, generally speaking, and these are all generalities.
Yes.
So there are things that contribute to woman's femininity, even like scientifically, but and I definitely agree that patriarchy is responsible largely for maybe like exaggerating some of these things or playing up some of these qualities, exaggerating some of these qualities, etc. But what do you feel about women like Claudia Jordan and Jada from BGC who were like really offended, who feel like what would trans women be emulating if it wasn't for cis hetero women? Where would gay men get their rolling of the neck and their sassiness and their femininity from, and get their androgyny from, and get all of that from if women weren't there as an example and as a reference?
Okay, so that's also why. Okay, so I do get that point. That's also why I also mentioned. I said before I even got into that, is that I do know that women are the blueprint, and that in particular Black women, since we're having a Black context. And I would say even globally, Black women are the blueprint. But however, the one thing I was saying is that in the context of the video I was watching, is that sometimes because even on your panel and stuff, I think I'm gonna say on your panels, whenever we start leaving the spiritual aspect of what femininity is, and I would say some women, not all, some, not all, when they start to express their what makes them feminine and all these different types of things. From that video alone, I started to realize that some of these things.
Is it what makes them feminine or what makes them female?
I would say a little bit of both. A little bit of both. I'm gonna say both. Okay. Because like the thing about it is like some of these things are like what men like what men want from women. And the message of the main, which is another thing I want to say, the main message of that video is that, are you doing it for yourself or are you doing it to attract somebody else? And so that's what I found very interesting, because even when I started to talk to
can it not be both?
Yeah, it can be both. But the thing is that when I found out, when I started to talk to some of the people I know in my real life, Erica brought up a very interesting point. What she said is that the program starts extremely early. Like it gets to a point to where, like, say if a little girl gets a boyfriend, and when she's starting to find out, like, you know, certain things about the boyfriend or whatever, it's like a almost like second nature. She starts to like the same things. It's like automatic. You start to like the same things. And so I was like, you know what? I've actually talked to some of my friends, and they actually have had experiences like that, where they'll have a boyfriend or whatever, and they ain't never do this a day in life. They never talked about it. Not saying that they probably didn't have a passion for it, but it was like every single time they got a boyfriend, all of a sudden they like something new that just so happened the other boyfriend liked. And then all of a sudden they get another boyfriend, they like something new. It's like, what the fuck? So I don't know. I don't know. Like when I was watching the video, I was like, it kind of, maybe because of my personal, what I've seen, I was like, I don't know. I was kind of like, when it came down to it. And that's another reason why I didn't really say too much, because at the same time I was listening, because I was like, I'm trying to figure this out. Oh, look at if you get to lose.
I'm not so much as really polarized by it, because at the end of the day, it's just like, I'm going to give Black women their credit because they deserve it and they need it. And Black LGBT people have also their place, and Black women should also return the favor and also give credit where it's also due, which is why I like Claudia. I like Claudia's clapback, because it was balanced. It was like, okay, we definitely, as women in the West, are the blueprint. This is where you guys have an example of what to be for your femininity from us. But you guys also contribute to us in remarkable and creative ways. So we can't take that away from y'all either. Both parties have contributed to each other and have given unto each other. And so But yes, this masculine and feminine thing is a spiritual thing at heart. It's not physical at all. It's metaphysical at its core. And no, it's not restrictive to just any particular gender. That's why when I had the conversation around transgenders and detransitioners, and we was all up through the history of Sweden and Egypt and all these other countries, it was interesting to see how gender and masculinity and femininity have just been so interwoven into the human psyche, like irregardless of male and female, and that there are, that throughout time, there have been human beings who have had a unique experience with their capacity for femininity and masculinity. And so we generate these spaces and labels for these people, so like non-binary, non-gender conforming, androgynous, trans, etc., because this has never been a male and female phenomenon alone. It's been the people who exist all up in between both of those polarities have always been amongst us, and they're teaching us something about the nature of consciousness and the nature of femininity and masculinity, which is that this is something that's just fundamental to our human makeup, and it causes us to do a deep work in ourselves, especially in the West, where we have very strong binary. We have there's boy, girl, male, female, and then we have assigned both of these universal polarities a sex, which then adds insult to injury, because it suggests that only women can have femininity and only men can have masculinity, when that has never ever been the truth from the jump. It's never been the truth. So we started off with a whole lie, started off on the wrong foot in the West as it relates to only hiking up the strong polarity and binary. And so now, because of the LGBT community of America and of the West, we are finally able to have the conversations and kind of reset the narrative and start from the actual truth. We actually have a shot at the truth and recorrecting our flawed misconceptions around gender and our flawed misconceptions around orientation and our flawed misconceptions around femininity and masculinity. And yes, women are not going to like that correction, because femininity has been their claim to their identity, just like men are not appreciating this corrective course because they've used masculinity as their claim to manhood. So the fact that we're now saying that neither one of these things are all that there is, and that everybody at heart, if you remove the socialization that we've all been indoctrinated and all been modified under, if you remove the socialization, we all would be androgynous naturally. We are only not because we've been socialized to be male and female, and we've been assigned under this construct to these gender roles, to these gender specific behaviors, to this heteronormativity, etc., that even gay Black men are still adhering to. We still emulate a lot of the binary ourselves. A lot of our relationship dynamics are set up just like the heterosexual dynamics are. There's top, there's bottom, there's male, there's effeminate and masculine, and etc. Because it's kind of hard to imagine or to exist outside of what's not familiar. But I like the fact that the divine feminine is coming through, and she's making us do the hard work. She's making us make these things spiritual again. She's making us make these things metaphysical again. And yeah, it's going to be rough because we all have such a strong identity in our masculinities and in our femininities. But that rug is being snatched from under us, and it's really a brilliant thing. But tough cookie for those who have identified as either one or the other.
All right, so okay, so this is another reason why I like to have the panels or watch people have panels and stuff, because I know a lot of times people say, "Oh, you look so, you're very woke, you're very da 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 da." But a lot of times too, one of the reasons why, at least for the most part, I don't try to get on platforms talking out the side of my neck all the time, is that I like to sit back and I like to listen. I like to also get feedback. I'm like, okay, does that make sense? Then when you explore thought, you're like, oh, that don't really make too much sense. I discard it. So for my final thought, I'm gonna go with yes. In particular, Black women have been the blueprint, but however, queer people has also added to what was already the foundation. No one owns masculinity or femininity, because that lives within each of us. But because we live in such a binary in the Western Hemisphere, that is why we see things the way that we do today. I think I'm kind of go with that. So far.
Jesus.
There we go. Let me see.
Where is your relationship to, like, because I know that you started off really being attracted to abusive, domestic.
Oh no. You never did abusive.
And had a few black eyes and a few missing teeth.
Okay, the lies. But I will say this, and this goes back to this bad boy right here. This heteronormative and me believing that men should only be masculine. Even I would say not even on the I would say even on the I'm gonna say yeah. Like me actually believing that men only should have been masculine, and actually hiding behind the idea and the words of I prefer, this is my preference, keyword y'all, this is my preference, I prefer masculine men, and completely disregarding men, even if they're not 100% feminine or the way that they socialize femininely, and completely disregarding another group of men that I could possibly find love in, because they're not quote unquote the masculine, or they don't have enough testosterone that I think that they should have. You get what I'm saying? So I think back in the day, I struggle with the idea that you must be masculine. That's what turned me on, until you kind of dared me in a sense to kind of push the limits just a bit, as in go for the people who aren't as masculine. It's baby steps. Like, if you still want masculine, okay, do that. But however, go for like the person that's like in between, a little bit of feminine, a little bit of masculine. And then once I did that, I actually found a person that the experience was way much better, because not only that, it's just that I felt like it was easier to communicate with them. You can joke with them. They don't take themselves too seriously, as in their identity fully. Then on top of that, it's like, I don't know, it was a much better experiences for me. So now I'm kind of to the point to where if you're like hyper masculine, or you just like at some point it's kind of a turn off, because then I start to realize that some of the ways that I was thinking in the past, it's a bit toxic.
Yeah, a whole lot of toxic.
Yeah, it was. So that's what that heteronormative came in for me, because I was thinking that men should only be masculine and stuff, and it goes so far.
No, you were trying to voguing and throwing that ass in a circle.
Exactly. And so the thing is that like it goes like, and this is the reason I was about to say that I think even on a subconscious level, but then I changed it, because it's not only a subconscious level, it was actually to the point to where I actually had an issue seeing men in long hair and stuff. Like I had an issue with seeing men with nails, hair, all these different types of things. And I remember watching T.S. Madison. Yep. And so I was watching T.S. Madison, and I remember one person. Her name is Miss Sophia, it's a drag queen, and I remember I had it was so much discomfort seeing a man in wig, nails, because I'd never seen that before. Except for obviously like one time before I actually seen somebody like that. And so I had such this discomfort, because keep in mind too, I was still in the church. And I think I recently left the church. but I was still like, have my process of doing a whole bunch of unlearning. So it made me uncomfortable watching Miss Sophia on YouTube. And so I didn't watch that episode. And I think this was around the time Kaya and T.S. Madison was going back and forth. And that's when that big whole situation happened. And that's when I came across your video. And then that's when I was like, you know what? Your aesthetic when I first met you kind of made me uncomfortable. But then at the same time, I think what it was, you was intellectually stimulating. So I was like, you know what? It's a lot of unlearning that I have to do. So with that being said, I'm now, and this is what I also tell people all the time. This is where we start to get to the conversation of, yes, you can be self-aware, but however, you have to make a conscious decision. Like for me, I made a conscious decision as in, since I have a lot of unlearning that I have to do, I'm gonna make a conscious decision to watch conscious TV. So that's what I did. And so after some time, I got used to it. It was like, and then I started coming across more of your videos, and you start to break stuff down. I was like, oh, okay. And then that's how I kind of worked all of that out. And then now I love Miss Sophia.
I've been around here changing these hoes' lives, Grandma.
Oh, yeah.
I've been around here baptizing these people in the Father, Son, and the Holy Daughter. Honey.
Yeah.
No, but that is amazing because you and I have been able to work together to decolonize your brain a lot. You have come worlds over. Like, we on the other side of the moon now as it relates to Reckless. Like, and it's actually been amazing that you actually like had the will to actually decolonize and deconstruct your mind around certain things. Most human beings do not enjoy that work, and they damn sure actually like they don't necessarily
want to do it
work toward accomplishing that. Yeah, and so the fact that it speaks volumes about your desire to be a truth seeker, your desire to be behind the will of your brain and sexually, instead of allowing your brain to control you, that you're taking a creative right over your mind, and the willingness to like actually confront all of the lies that we've all been told. Like, that's a very emotional journey as well. It's kind of heartbreaking when you just like, damn, bitch, I've been misled about so much. And the people who misled me were misled themselves and don't even fucking know it. And then you think about how much it costed your life to be on the wrong side of the tracks. But then there's also this amazing feeling of finally being found after being lost for so damn long in the wilderness of life. And so it's been amazing to actually see you grow. And because I've grown, like, it makes anybody want to evangelize. Like, when you go and find shit, you naturally want to come back and be like, yo, this is what I found. Like, girl, like,
yeah.
Like, you just got to go spread the message and spread the good gospel. Like, girl, the grass is green. It's treasure on the other side of the bullshit.
Yes. And the thing, especially once I started, because, for me personally, it was like a whole thing of, I was leaving the church. It wasn't resonating with me because, it was telling me one thing as in pray it away. It was telling me one thing as in pray to get away. Telling me one thing as in God will come help you. But however, I still had these feelings that weren't going away. Self-harm ideations were coming into effect. I was like, I have to get up out of this place. I guess I have to find a different route. And I guess it comes also to the law of manifestation, because I wanted the answers, but however, it led me straight to the answers that I needed. Or at least the pathway. Because even when now here's the part that you're gonna have to step in. How we actually met, because I always get this part messed up. So you got to step in on this part because I always get this messed up.
I don't even how. So I think you had been following me, and then I believe you actually followed me on Instagram, and then I had went and checked out your page, and I was like, oh, he's a content creator, and boom pow, and I was like, I like him. So then I had reached out to you through Instagram and was like, yo, no. Then from there we just
okay. Yeah. Oh no, it was this. Okay, I think I remember. Yes, it was something like I saw you on your YouTube or whatever, and it was like I was watching you for like a little bit, and then something in me just said, follow him on Instagram and contact him. So I contacted you, and I think that's when we had conversations like, oh, I didn't know he was a content creator. Oh my god! And then so I think that you gave me your number, and I think that's when we had our first conversation. And then that is when everything came into effect. It was like it naturally happened, because even then I believe that, now correct me if I'm wrong, the first time we had talked about it, I said I believe that you said that you usually don't even talk to people, or even when people reach out, you don't really contact them like that, at least at that time. But however, you said that something in you just said contact him, reach out to him, something like that. I forgot. It was something like that.
I'm spirit led. I go by the spirit. I'm naturally introverted, and I allow myself to be inspired to deal with people versus just shucking and jiving with people for the hell of shucking and jiving with people. I try to really listen for kind of like that back signal, and that's kind of like the way most of my friendships have started. Whether those people pursued me or I pursued them, it's always confirmation by the spirit. Like I needed to feel compelled to actually invest and cultivate and nurture a relationship. So yeah, I heard that call for you, and we've been stuck by Chuck ever since. And you called me everything from your teacher to your mentor. I'm your therapist, and someday when your O's and Trey finally done blown the kneecaps off of them legs, I'll be wiping your ass too.
Girl, it'd be a lot.
But let me ask you, like, how were you able to like become comfortable as a Black man with your own femininity? Like when you like saw yourself, be like, okay, I got some feminine traits, but I'm okay with that. Like how were you able to get to the point of being comfortable with all of your mannerisms, masculine and feminine, but particularly obviously like your femininity?
I decolonized my mind. I did a lot of unlearning. For one, I left.
Do you remember the exact moment where you realized? I said, do you recall the exact moment where you realized that you, like, I'm okay, I'm okay with me?
I don't believe I remember the exact moment, but I do remember some of the key moments that were like really detrimental. I'm gonna say now that played a big giant key point, and I'm like, okay, I remember this particular time I learned something from this, and it was like a gradual thing. It wasn't like okay, I got it. It was like I'm finally there now. I remember the first thing I did, for me personally, I ended up leaving my church, as in I stopped going to my particular church, because of the rhetoric. I'm just thinking about going back to church, but however, a particular church that teaches from a historic, it has different aspects than just what certain narratives that go around about the misconceptions that go around pertaining to the Bible. But however, that's off track. For me, first I left the church. That gave me some time to not always hear certain rhetoric that gave me self-harm ideation. That was one. Secondly, I ended up actually joining a sociology class, but it had sexuality and gender. So I was in college at the time. And so, for example, this actually shows you how much where I was mentally, because now I would never say no stupid shit like this. I was in the class, and it was our first day in, and it was like, oh, first day, they have everybody get up. You say what's your name, your major, how old you are, why'd you join the class? So she went to one person, the professor said, okay, da-da-da. Second person, da-da-da. Third person, fourth person. So after some time, they get to me. Once they get to me, I stand up and say, hey, I was like, hello, my name is yada, yada, yada. At the time, so I'm 21 years old. My major at the time was exercise science, because I was like really deep into fitness. So I wanted to do all that. And then so she asked me, because I had forgot what the question was, she asked me, why did I join the class? Now, this is where you can see where I was mentally. And this is also another reason why I have a bit of a soft spot for people that say things that are that are rooted in self-hate and don't realize it, because I didn't realize it. She literally said, you know, why did you join this class? And I said, you know, I started off great. I said I want to join this class. I want to get more information. I want to learn more about sexuality and gender. And then the ending part I said, and plus I said I wanted to find out what was wrong with me. Nowadays, I would never say nothing like that. But I ended up saying at the end, I wanted to find out what was wrong with me. And then she said, she corrected me in front of the class. She was like, there's nothing wrong with you. And as soon as she said that, it clicked. Because I was like, why did I say that? Like, because it was like second nature for me to say what was wrong with me. And but however, when she corrected me, it was like why did I say that? And then so it kind of messed with me a little bit. And so that's when I knew I was in the right place. And so I learned a few things, and then that happened. I do remember another key point of me actually it was a video that you did. Now, this is a big giant key point. It was that debate, that 10-hour debate you did with Jay Lethal. I learned a lot, only because simple fact of not really learning a lot as in me getting 100% comfortable with my femininity, but now is that when I go back home and I go back into my family spaces with the family, I actually have a loaded gun. A lot of times too, when I used to try to combat them, I didn't really have no ammo or nothing really substantial to really make them think and really challenge their thought processes. And so now when I'm like, okay, things will make it, because a lot of times too, I had my information that I had was very vague. So a lot of times when, you know, I watch different videos, watch different people, and also too, because I actually been following her for a while too. Like I mentioned, Erica De Niro TV, she was another person as well. I don't think I can talk about her with you that much. But I was watching her at the same time. So watching both of y'all, I was able to get more understanding and also in the same sense, have more information so I can be able to articulate myself more effectively. And then in the end, combat those who I needed to combat. And then with that being said, I felt like, I don't know, maybe it was just, my mom always said I was always supposed to be a pastor in a sense. And I told her I'm never going to be no pastor. But however, I guess in modern day, I guess more of an activist. That's what I say, advocacy, activist. And I guess ever since then, since I kind of got more information on it and I'm more clear and I'm more concrete in who I am. I'm willing to die on that hill. I'll put it that way. That was a long story, but beautiful. I'm willing to die on that hill now.
Come on, soldier. Ain't afraid to stand up for me. Very hard testimonial. And that'd be the shit, like, and that's what I want for all Black men. It's just freedom. Like freedom, man. That's what I mean. I want that for our community in general. You know, like I hate that masc and feminine have been made largely a conversation of like sexuality when this ain't got nothing to do with sexuality. Femininity and masculinity ain't got shit to do with sexuality. Like, you know, heterosexual men are just as colorful and nuanced and diverse as same gender loving men are, unique and not a monolith. So, yeah, you know, just being balanced in that ways. And I get jealous when I look at other cultures. I mean, I was just looking, I mean, even shit. I mean, I'll even give the mayonnaise folk a little bit of credit. Like, I'll be watching, like, I was watching, for instance, I don't know. Have you seen Caitlyn Jenner's documentary on Netflix?
No, I don't watch her.
Well, you know, I don't really watch her either, but you know, she's, you know, renowned trans woman at this point. But she has a documentary, and I was watching it last night, and I was looking at like her marriage to Kris Jenner and her previous marriage, and I was like, it's just so funny seeing white men being able to just like not have to be masculine and yet still have desirability from their women. Like how white men don't have to fucking necessarily like perform masculinity. They don't have to perform toxic masculinity. They can be in their little short shorts. They could just be quirky. They can just like be themselves, even be a little feminine. Hell, like they don't be any more masculine than the white women they date. And it's not an issue for white women. It's just like masculinity isn't that type of a thing, really, in the Euro community. And obviously that's just because Euro people don't need to have toxic. Well, I mean, they do have a toxic masculinity. It's responsible for all the pillaging and ish in the world. But, you know, it doesn't have to be something that's generationally perpetuated, because the toxic masculinity in the Black men's community has came about as a defense mechanism to the emasculation that comes from pale supremacy. So it's inauthentic and completely man-made. So, you know, it's a survival mechanism for Black men at this point in terms of this toxic brand of masculinity. But, you know, I was just looking at white men's dynamics with white women, and it's just interesting to me how they can just have their long hair, they could have a bang across their head, they can even like just exist and still be considered men and still thought of as men and claim heterosexuality and have that be believed by their female counterparts. And that's just not a freedom that Black cis hetero men get to exist within. So I appreciate men like Jaden Smith, you know, who was willing to break the binary and identify as cis hetero and wear a dress and just like be himself, or the Russell Brooks of the world who be, you know, like wearing all these high fashion ass outfits and dresses, and he's a whole fucking athlete and married a beautiful Black woman and is able to just be, or even like the blueprint to him, which is like Dennis Rodman, you know, who let it all fucking hang out and definitely showed up in his individuality and loved him some pussy. And, you know, you have the Princes, you even have the Michael Jacksons who, you know, not overtly masculine or at least a toxic, you know, in their masculinity. And it's just like, let Black hetero men just be the same way that Black women have allowed to be, and let all people come into balance in order to be made whole, which is just simply to be in touch with both your femininity and masculinity. And as it relates to this tension between Black gay men and Black cis hetero women, as long as we continue to talk our differences out and to confront them, we'll be fine. We just got to keep communicating.
Yeah.
Because we got this far for a reason. And so nothing is ultimately going to stop us from ruling the world together as a dynamic duo. We just got to continue to just talk, and we'll be okay.
I 100% agree with that. So I do want to say, let's actually get into a bit of this conversation. Then we're going to get into Roe v. Wade, because we got to talk about that. Because girl,
okay, I need to push my live back.
Oh shit. Okay, so
I'll be finished.
Okay, so the panel that you had yesterday,
yes,
that was a bit of a panel. Now, you in particular was very fired up, baby. You was on 25 out of 20.
Was I?
Yeah, you was. You was on 25 out of 20. So the conversation that Funky Dineva was having with Claudia, or at least addressing, is that even though Black women in particular, we have in Black context, y'all, melanated women have always been an ally compared to the heterosexual male counterparts. But however, even though allyship has always been there, there has also been issues or concerns that have been present as well. As in, you can be an ally, you can love us, do all these things, but however, there are homophobia. There is a homophobia that still exists. And I feel like on that panel, I personally felt like, because I was sitting back and I was listening and watching, I personally felt like whenever we would say that homophobia in women do exist, it would either push off to the men, or it would be like one of the things is, oh, that never happened. And so I think that's that's the main reason why you got fired up, because it was like we're telling you our experiences and telling you the stuff that actually happened, and then it's like, oh, that never happened, or it's like a push off to the men. If you be on Conscious TV's panel all the time, then you know that we have a habit of wearing out men over there. But however, the conversation that we're having is between black men, queer men and women and trans and women, biological women, cis women. So I do believe that I'm not gonna say I believe, I think we all should know that there are homophobic women, but however, there are different types of homophobia when it comes down to queer people. Yes, you can have a gay friend. Yes, you can have gay family member. But however, when you have a gay son or a gay daughter, that rhetoric and the idea may change of you being too accepting or as accepting. Because even though my own mother loved me very dearly, she still hold certain views and also had certain rhetoric in that same process. Yes, she never kicked me out. Yes, she never beat me because I was queer. But however, she still was able to verbally, and I would say without her even knowing, because of her own belief system, verbally attack me in a sense. So
no, I completely agree with that. And that's why, like yesterday's live, I made the distinction between like the homophobia of straight men and the homophobia of straight women. Like straight women's homophobia was largely emotional, mental, and verbal, while black men's homophobia had always had the potential to be actually violent and was actually physically violent at times. But nonetheless, it's homophobia. Like just like racism can be expressed through verbal only, and just your worldview can be homophobic, while you have the other races who actually execute physical violence upon those who they have a prejudice towards. Both parties are racist, whether it's the racist politician who don't believe that black people should live here and have access to that and be in this space and that space, but may never ever put their actual hands on you. I may never even draw a weapon on you, but we still classify those people as racist. And then you have those racist, hillbilly, nunchuck, goat fucking ass, sister wives, incest, love making the country hillbilly ass, really goat throating ass.
Now, hold up. I know y'all not gonna let him get away with this, but however, when I say my AKA, y'all get annoyed. So y'all better eat him up.
Of course not. CTV is the exception. But but it's racist. So yes, like of course, under a patriarchy, black women have internalized toxic traits and are toxic toward each other, are toxic toward LGBT folk. Black women are not without the same indoctrination that black men have endured, and the same indoctrination that LGBT people have endured. Hell, LGBT people also are homophobic and transphobic and have internalized queerness. So certainly every member of the dominant society damn sure does.
Yeah.
And, it's just a different type of homophobia. But, relatively speaking, our dynamics with women have just been far much more communal and far better, simply because our experiences largely of black straight men has been literally so fucking horrendous and abusive and traumatizing. But that does not mean that women were necessarily perfect in their allyship. And we've given grace to that too, because, you can't do better when you just don't know better. Most people live out what they've been taught. Most people think that what they've been taught is the truth and have no idea how injurious that stuff is. They have no idea how othering and how psychologically traumatizing some of the rhetoric and sentiment, whether it's religious inspired or not, can be unto the people that they are about. So, I give the dominant society grace for their ignorance. I understand, that we all been taught that way. Hell, I hate it myself too because of those things. I believe those things once upon a time too about myself. You know, so it takes work, it takes unpacking, but yeah, you know, when Funky Dineva entered the chat about, hey, don't think because you know,
he's into the chat.
don't think because we've been friends that it don't mean we ain't got problems. We got problems with our Judy, and you know, and when I really thought when he said it, I immediately thought about, damn, like my own experiences with my female counterparts and how there always kind of was a dualism, like, you know, the women who didn't make too much of a fuss about my sexuality and kind of made space for me and loved on me. You know, they also would also go to church and amen the pastor to them gay sermons.
Yeah.
They also would not necessarily defend me if they were in spaces that were homophobic and other people were being explicitly homophobic.
Yep.
They also could love me to death, but not also want their own sons to be gay. So there was always kind of like this backhandedness or this duality that existed in not only my relationship, you know, a lot of my other gay friends had kind of this backhanded dualistic relationship to their female counterparts too, where there was kind of like 1 foot into accepting us and kind of 1 foot out. And maybe the 1 foot out wasn't so much about homophobia as it was about their own need to also want to be accepted by the dominant class too, because everybody wants to belong and nobody really wants to rock the boat. And so, you know, when in Rome, do what Romans do, or when in a homophobic system, do what homophobes do, be homophobic, you know, like, you know, for the sake of just fitting in and just not wanting to upset the status quo. So, you know, it's a deep thing. It's a lot to unpack. It's a conversation that needs to be had as well, because gay men were hurt by that, but gay men didn't really have a lot of time to focus on the imperfections of their relationship to females when there was so much explicit issues between them and their black straight male peers. Yes. All that part about that.
Girl. Wait, because I ain't gonna lie, it was one of them things that said, hold up, I'm windmilling on his ass. Well, hold up, sis, you have to get to you a little bit later, bitch. It's like one of them type of things. And then on top of that, when you windmilling on his ass, she helping you windmill because he was windmilling on her ass. So it's one of them
had time to get around to it until now.
Yeah.
You know, now that gay men kind of have their own space and are earning their own respects out here and kind of have options and are able to kind of be a little bit more, now it's kind of like, okay, well, if we need to talk about some things, we can finally do that. Like, we finally got the time and the safety a little bit to actually address some of the tension and issues that have gone on between gay men. And because, you know, even as a gay man, I did not appreciate growing up hearing gay digs be the first thing that my homegirls did to their boyfriends or did to niggas that they were dating, like to call him an F-bomb or to, you know, call him gay because you knew how much that would hurt his reputation, like weaponizing homophobia against their male counterparts. Because the truth is, you cannot claim to not have a problem with a group and to love queer people and then also think that you can isolate your homophobia and it be like unrelated. There's something that you can say to somebody else that's homophobic that's not also about me.
Yep.
And sometimes women don't understand that. You know, you can't say all those things about your baby daddy just because you mad or whatever. He's gay. You can't just weaponize all of that. And then it's okay because it's just not. And
girl,
I know in your experience, child, because, you know, to your point, I had a mom. She was loving. She loved me to death, but she was not with the gay shits either. She was homophobic. You know, was she the type of homophobic? Was she like Lil Boosie homophobic? No, but she was homophobic. She wasn't with the shit. Wasn't affirming. She let it be known that I was not on the right side of God. And I was never able to really bring my partners around or to have her input on my dating life, things that I missed out on, things that I desired, things that I watched her give to my straight brother that, I had to kind of be on the outside of the window looking in many ways to the privilege that the straight folk in my family and in my lives were able to participate in while I had to
on the sidelines.
Keep a big part of my life to myself. I couldn't participate in those conversations around my love life at the Thanksgiving table. I couldn't be as vocal and authentic and be as sharing with my queer life and my relationship dynamics and who I'm doing and how well my love life going and plans me and my partner got like my straight peers could without it causing confusion or somebody trying to Bible thump or, it just becoming a mess. So, I don't think that people just think much about how like when you are privileged, it's just your normal is so your normal that it's just like, it's, like it's hard to imagine like that somebody else does not have something that you probably take for granted because it just comes that second nature to you. That privilege comes so normal to you. But queer people had to live like that. Some people before this day and age had to live like that their whole life.
You
are a blessed situation to be able to actually say it and to talk about it and to spin down on stripper poles and thigh-high boots into hell and sit on someone's lap. Like to be able to be that explicit and that even that vulgar, to even be that like transparent and to be able to actually live in a day and age now where there is education and conversation going on, like that shit is wild because so many other LGBT folk before us, they live their whole lives with nobody, with never being able to have their parents love them in that way or to have a society that galvanized around them. And it's wild that folk live. Like when I think about the gays in the 60s, it's like, where did y'all go? How did y'all even meet and find other gay people? Like what
was the coach? Like, how did you guys navigate?
Yeah. Like it must have been so lonely. Like how, like, we got dating apps, we got clubs, we got, like it's like obvious spaces. It's like forums now. Like the internet has allowed for like so much.
We go to parks after dark.
We look at GPS to each other now. Like, you can literally go on Jack and Tinder and locate a gate. Like, 1 mile away. Like, how did you even find your people? And it's just, I can't imagine some of the profound loneliness that other LGBT people had to experience in other eras of time who didn't have the luxuries that we have. And it's also amazing to know that the generations coming ahead of us are going to have it even better than we had it.
Okay, I agree. I want to agree. So with that being said, let's get into this other topic. Yeah. So the Supreme Court lost their rabbit ass mind.
Yes, I said roll your boat.
So the Supreme Court lost their rabbit ass mind and they completely overturned Roe v. Wade. So basically, all in all, for those who do not know what Roe v. Wade is, Roe v. Wade just about has to do with abortions, and basically they made it up to the state to be able to decide whether or not within that particular state if they can have abortions or not. What are your thoughts? They overturned it. Yeah, this don't make us like, I'm gonna be honest, like this is crazy to me. Well, I'm not shocked. Let me put that out there. I'm not shocked that even though we may seem and look so progressive, because progression or people that think and want to operate more progressive are and still exist within this society. But however, I think a lot of times too, especially in political campaigns, a lot of people try to put on this face as in I look progressive, but however, when I get in office, I'm gonna be tap dancing to a different tune. So I think a lot of times too, we're progressive, but however, we still have people that are on the opposite or on the opposite end of that polarity when it comes down to progression and other topics, scenarios, and stuff like that. So I'm not shocked, to be completely honest with you. Um, the Supreme Court don't know what type of stuff they have, what can of worms they've kind of opened, only because simple fact of once again we're taking control of women's bodies and we're trying to give the liberty to a state to give the right to a woman if she wants to have an abortion or not. But however, the thing is that if we're going to do that, because my thing is I wouldn't have no issue if they were to take out abortions or anything like that. I'm like, okay, cool, let's go with it. But however, in order to fill in the gap, you must make it mandatory for vasectomies. But we know that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So I'm just kind of over that BS. And then on top of that, today, because now I'm going to get to a smaller rant. Even on top of that, today, I was on Bigo and I was on a particular panel, and a particular gay man, black, melanated gay man, was saying stuff like, oh, I'm glad they did da 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 da. Women need to keep their legs. I'm paraphrasing, y'all. Women need to keep their legs closed. And you need to be more careful who you have sex with and all these different types of things. And when I tell you, me included on that panel and the rest of that panel tore his ass up. Because the thing is that, and for some people, because I know a lot of times when we be on your panel conscious, I believe it's Lady T. A lot of times she be shocked by some of the rhetoric that she hears and stuff from certain people. Huh? Oh, she in the chat right now? Mm-hmm. Hey. But I know a lot of times, like she's shocked by some of the rhetoric that she hears, and she be like, "You're a gay man," like da da da. But gay men are still men, and since they're still men, and we live in a patriarchal system that shows and completely demonstrates that women, in eyes of misogyny people or misogynistic people, that women are disposable, which is like what this system is based off of. They went under that same programming. So yes, they may be queer, but however, you can still be compartmentalized in that way. So I'm not even shocked. So what are your thoughts? Because girl, this is a bit much.
Yes, when you are a man, whether cis or hetero, pan, bi, or anything in between, you can still body misogyny, you can still body transphobia, you can still be sexist, you can be all of those things. It's not the given states the individual power to legislate abortion rights. It's the fact that the states are not a monolith, and there are more than half of the country that is anti-abortion, and being concerned for the women within those states who now are passing and following through with the anti-abortion bill. So you have Arkansas, who canceled all of their abortions like today, just cleaned it on up. Like, and my stomach just dropped. I mean, like, my heart just dropped to the pit of my stomach, because it's just like not even having chance to like transition, and for us to create, like, not even correcting the root issue with the problem. Like, we're just not correcting the root issue. Like, we're just treating the symptom and not legalizing. I mean, like, criminalizing abortions is not going to stop the issue of unwanted pregnancies, and it's only going to lead to women doing more dangerous things unto themselves as a result. And so it's just really wild at how this just kind of happened. And even though like the documents were leaked 2 months ago, that this was all happening, that this was all coming down the pipeline, but to manifest, it is very shocking. And I'm just more shocked by the lack of compassion and the lack of time that wasn't given for this for this change to just have been dealt with a bit more compassion and humanity. Because I just don't understand how you just snatch the right away and then just shut down clinics and shut down appointments and just, I just don't understand how you can live. I don't understand how the powers that be can call themselves having a humanity for the humans of their society. And then you just make flippant decisions like this and completely disrupt people's lives whose lives are already disrupted because there's already an unwanted pregnancy. There's already whatever trauma is around that experience, whether it's RAPE, whether it's incest or whatever. It's just, I don't like how can what I'm most shocked about is, and I shouldn't be as a minority person. I don't know why I would still be shocked, because as minority people, we've seen nothing but a atrocious government and atrocious political power used in some of the most monstrative ways against us. So I shouldn't be shocked, but yet I'm still shocked, because as a person who has a heart, I'm always going to be shocked at heartlessness. I don't give a damn how everyday it is. I don't give a damn how perpetual it is. I don't give a damn how consistent it is. As a person with a heart, as a person who has empathy, I'm always going to be shocked when there's no empathy. And it's just like, okay, if y'all realize there was a flaw in the Constitution because there was never anything that explicitly stated that abortions are constitutional rights, that this was just an interpretation and spinoff of certain principles that already existed within the Constitution. Okay, I understand. Y'all had to correct it. But I don't understand correcting it overnight. Like, that's what I don't understand. Because that change affects people's lives right here, right now. And there's no protocol. Biden gave a speech today, and there was no information around, okay, like, for the states that are going to legalize, who are going to maintain abortion rights, are women who are the residencies of anti-abortion states going to even have access to the abortion procedures in pro-abortion states? Is there going to be funding? Is there going to be, like, for women? Okay, so let's say you are a woman and you live in an anti-abortion state, but you plan on getting your abortion in another state. Or like, is there going to be something put in place to where you can have an absence of leave to go and facilitate that? You know, that's not an experience that's a mile away now. You have to literally facilitate a whole out-of-town experience in order to undergo your abortion. And then they're talking about also the states that are anti-abortion are going to be stripping the contraceptions and the Plan Bs off the table. And it's just like,
that doesn't make sense.
It's so interpassionate.
I think the craziest thing is that when I was growing up and stuff, I used to think that politicians were smart. I really did. I think maybe because the way they were perceived as it's the government, you got to be a certain status to get inside. But actually, like now, that is dumb as hell, and it's dumb as hell because it doesn't make any sense. It makes sense for I get why. Well, from the conspiracy aspect, because it's not really proven. Melanated people, BIPOC people, their communities are starting to become larger than white people. That's basically what it is. So in order to have population control and being able to get to a point to where it can populate and become the dominant class and secure their space as a dominant class, they have to get rid of things that can possibly get rid of their seeds. Now, the reason why, and this also goes to, because now I'm going to go back on a little rant because I just flashback. This is another reason why I get annoyed. Fuck white people right now. This is another reason why I get annoyed at other women or gay men or gay queer people, trans, whoever, men, heterosexual men, whatever, that say stuff, and keep it, I'm not talking about white, we have a black context right now, or Hispanic, BIPOC.
Talk back to me.
Like, but here's the thing, like, that shit gets on my nerves that when you sit there, you say stupid shit like that and say, yes, we're doing it for the women. But however, when you look at statistics, black women are more likely to pass away during childbirth. And because of experiences like, i.e., when they're in the hospital and stuff, and the doctors and nurses have to attend to them, a lot of times too, doctors and nurses be like, okay, she's good, but however, in all actuality, she's not good. And this also goes to another reason why we need more melanated people. Well, I'm gonna retract that statement. We need more right-minded melanated people to be in these spaces, because if we already have an understanding that people who don't look like us are not gonna have our back willingly, which could be a conscious decision or unconscious decision not to have our back, then we're going to need people that look like us to pick up the slack. Because if we're not going to do it, who's going to do it? So it really kind of upsets me. It really upsets me and my homegirl, because the thing about it is that, like, yes, I think for the surface level, you think you're helping women, but at the end of the day, it's just a shot in the foot. Like, you're shooting yourself in the foot. That's really annoying to me. And then on top of that, like, a lot of times too, we tell women, oh, you never should have had sex with this person. And then when she had the baby and the baby's in the poor or all these different other issues that happen, they blame the woman. Oh, the man wasn't in the woman's life. Like, I just can't. Like, this shit, it doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. It fucking does not.
The thing about it is, like, you can tell how cold and shallow and misogynistic and sexist this government is, because their arguments and talking points aren't even around the woman. It's around the non-existent baby. The baby. These are not babies. These are clumps of cells, okay? This is not a heartbeat. These are... girl, these are
these are molecules.
These are molecules. Cardiac activity. That's just the result of creation taking place. Like, it's like the language is being weaponized and it's misleading. They keep using babies for a reason, aborting these babies because it's polarizing and it paints a clear picture that a whole living, fully developed being is being murdered on the abortion table, and that's just not the case. And like I said, I just can't deal with the hypocrisy. I can't deal with the assault on women. As you said, it's not even balanced. How are we having no conversations around vasectomies? Shouldn't this be a two-sided debate? Shouldn't we be talking just as much about men's reproductive ability as we are talking about women's reproductive ability? And then, because of the issue of racism and sexism and xenophobia and transphobia and homophobia, we know that none of these pro-lifers actually care about these babies, because when these babies become people who do not align with the respectability politics of those privileged pro-lifers, there's There's no space, no resource, no care and love provided for those babies who become adult minorities. Like when these pro-lifers are talking their shit, they're talking about other privileged children having a shot in a privileged world set up for them. They're not thinking about nigger babies. They're not thinking about trans children. They don't have in mind poor children. They don't have in mind refugee children or immigrant children. Because guess what? When Donald Trump built that fucking wall and all those children were snatched from their mothers and parents for weeks on end, and sexual assault and starvation and child neglect was happening in those goddamn refugee camps, guess what pro-lifers, American pro-lifers were doing? Don't let those babies into the country. They don't deserve to be here. Their families are coming over here taking up all of the jobs. So the two of the most hypocritical people in life I've ever had the luxury, the unluxury of running into are hands down hotep ass niggas and dumbass pro-life ass motherfuckers. And both fuck my ass.
And another hypocrisy, just to add on to that, because I just remember, is the hypocrisy of, especially the politicians that be like, oh, I'm so pro-life. But however, when you engage in adultery and end up getting your mistress, pregnant, you're the first one sending her to that clinic because you don't want the status of anything else besides your marriage getting out. So, like, I don't be understand. It'd be like the selective, oh, I care about the children, and it's selective as in I'm pro-life, but however, I'm gonna use pro-choice and be very selective about it and also be on the DL about it. But then I'm gonna shame other people. And then on top of that, we're the first ones that sit up here and talk about, oh, keep religion and keeping the government's two separate things, but yet people in office literally use religion as a stance for why they should change laws. But keep in mind, not everybody believes in the exact same thing. Some people aren't religious. So how can you be a leader and also at the same time recognize that, one, I have my own belief system that I personally believe, but however, I have to keep in mind and keep in context that there are going to be people that voted for me that may not have the same belief system. There are going to be people that probably voted for me, maybe because they probably are atheists. There are going to be people that voted for me. They're probably going to be satanic, well, more in the appropriate terminology, Luciferian, or they'll be more into nature. Like, it's other aspects than just what your personal belief is.
And to your point, this is what's so dangerous about using your personal philosophies and your religion and etc. as a way to inform politics. A society cannot sustain itself off of that. The laws are going to look crazy like they do now. It's going to look a hot fucking mess. The only thing that makes sense for us to use to legislate societies and to give infrastructure and foundation for societies for all people, especially in the West, where we have a melting pot of people here in the West. We have blacks, whites, men, women, Asian folk, Hispanic folk. It's all happening in America. The only thing we can use is actual virtues. Like, that means that when it comes to voting and deciding law, I, as a mature human being, can only use my humanity to form laws out of. I can't use my personal belief systems. I have to use my actual humanity. That's the only thing that can be fair. So using my humanity means that, yeah, when it's time for us to talk about Satanists having religious freedoms, I gotta say yes to that, because humans should have the ability to worship how and what they want. They should have the freedom to worship openly and to serve whatever deity, whatever powers they do. That means that as a straight person, when I go to talk, when we go to create laws around marriage, the only thing that makes sense to do is to allow other consenting adults to marry each other, irregardless of sex, because people should just simply have the right to marry who the fuck they want. I cannot use my Christianity, cannot use my Muslim or Islamic belief systems, but that's exactly what we do, which is why we always are hammering out everything in America, because we're using our own personal politics to create spaces that should just be about dignifying other human beings' experience with basic civil rights. But we don't do that in America because we got so much fucking freedom that I have the freedom to oppress your ass. I have the freedom to disrupt your life based upon what I personally fucking think. And the only thing that I should be extending to you is the same thing that I want extended to me, which is the freedom of choice, autonomy to fucking be, and basic access to basic health care, etc. Like, there's just things that we all can agree upon as humans. Like, oh, I want to be happy. Oh, you want to be happy too, right? I'm agreeing to your happiness then. Long as your happiness and my happiness doesn't cause harm unto myself or unto others, these are the things we just have to agree on each other's happiness.
Like, I think maybe as well too. Another reason I get so hot because for one, it just happened. Two, I've been on Bigo and I've been going at it with a couple of people over there because the ignorance I just can't do. I just can't do it. And it's like, it's one thing to be ignorant, but it's another thing to be willfully ignorant. And let's also keep in mind is that for men that I've actually heard heterosexual men because they never actually expressed it, but they are quick to come after the gays, so I'm assuming they're heterosexual. Heterosexual men, and we're having a melanated context, melanated heterosexual men to say out their mouth, yes, they need to get rid of abortions. Yes, yada, yada, yada. But however, are usually the first ones to walk away from their family, statistically compared to the women. Now, they may walk away or be taken away. That may be depending upon what the circumstance is, prison, death, or etc. Just continue walking away, whatever. Shit, going to war. I don't fucking know. But however, with that being said, y'all be the first ones to create a broken home and then look back at the woman and say, you're the problem. When both of y'all laid down and created the baby. And the thing about it too is that it's such a mind fuck, only because simple fact of even in the conversations, and I love going to your panels because a lot of times too, it gives me a front row seat of the ideas and the way that people think. Because the thing is that we're so used to, and we've accepted the fact that men have the ability to walk away without backlash from a responsibility of taking care of their child. But however, we also have we've also accepted, or we're trying to make people accept the fact that women are just going to have to deal with the fact that they're just going to have to be a single mother. When we don't pressure men that we know walked away from their family, because I have uncles in my own family that literally go to reunions, literally come to parties, and the rest of the family is aware that he has some children that he's not even taking care of. Mm-hmm. But however, let a mother do the exact same thing. Next thing I know, it's going to be some type of rumors and all them little secret conversations about that. And that's all I really want to say on that.
Yeah, and social stigmatizing and oh, how could she? It's a mother, because so much more is expected out of women in this society. All of the burden is put on women. The burden to be good, the burden to be pure of heart, the burden to be perfect, the burden to be upright. And when women don't operate that way, they get shitted on and crucified. And because of patriarchy, there's male privilege. And like you said, men can walk around as flawed and stupid and dusty as they want to, while still having access to all of the love and respect of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, can be practically deplorable human beings. Look at how gangsters and pimps were glorified for so long in our culture, but yet nobody glorified the actual hoe that pimp was pimping. But the pimp was glorified. He was the man.
Like a motherfucker. And then on top of that, like Dominique said, and on the opposite side, a single father will be praised more than a single mother.
Absolutely.
And that's the slap. And what
women are not burdened to keep women. Women are burdened to keep men.
And because you can't keep a man, like it goes to everything that people say is like it literally everything that's said and everything that we do literally stems back to either a system, racism, colorism, homophobia, trans, something. And so it's just like I don't know, like I'm just like flabbergasted, but at the same time I'm not, because like I'm not shocked, but I'm shocked. Like I just can't get, like, it's ignorant as fuck. But that's really all I have to say on it. Do you have any more thoughts and stuff? Because I know we have to get to your live. Because girl,
destroy the system. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, get rid of all that system.
It's insurrection. It's insurrection time.
Girl. All right, so with that, look at Ty. Hey Ty, we love me some Ty over here. Right, my great uncle has 20 kids. Actually, all of my great uncles and grandfather have loved children. Love children.
Children out of wedlock, one night stand children, multiple children from multiple ex-wives, honey, and come around like a problem.
Yeah, so I'm finna end that, because if not, I'm gonna be on a whole rant, because I literally something just popped in my head, but I'm pretty sure that's gonna come up in a different live. So with that being said, y'all, do you have you want to give out your outro, Conscious?
Well, y'all know where to find me is Conscious TV. And matter of fact, we about to bounce right on over to my platform, me and Reckless. So y'all literally scoop right on over there, honey. We about to go right into it, honey. This was a pleasure. Happy to be here. Look forward to being here more often. Y'all continue to support my boy out here on these streets, honey. Hit that Cash App. Bless the king, honey. The king. Be on it, honey. He be in his bag, talking his shit, putting on his entertainment. Reckless lives a full fucking life. If y'all knew, like, how lucky y'all are to even like have this time with him, considering how much responsibility he has going on right now, honey. Like this, I'm telling you, him even being here right now is like mad fucking love for his audience, for his supporters, and just making sure that he gets y'all in to his schedule too. So don't be shy to bless the king, honey, to bless Reckless on that Cash App. That's $ Logicc 2 C's 98, honey.
I'm not gonna lie.
Bro, I'm real, girl.
Because I'm not gonna lie. Them 2 weeks I was gone, it was a bit much for me not being on there, like on here. Yeah. But however, the way they was wearing me out. I was tired, okay? But with that being said, I do want to end this video. I want to say thank you guys so very much. Make sure you guys pop that like button. Please pop that like button, so kind of get the likes up on this bad boy. Even if you don't, and keep in mind too, when I tell you to support the channel, I don't always mean you got to send a cash up or anything like that. A lot of times y'all support also means watching me, hitting the like button if you cannot always support financially. So with that being said, make sure you guys pop that like button, hit the subscribe button, and please smack the notification bell so do not miss any more posts from us. And with that being said, we will see you guys next time. Alrighty, y'all. So y'all make sure y'all take care of yourselves. Y'all stay